How the mouse ended up in the palace. Once upon a time there was a poor mouse named Galina who lived in the slums of a big city. She spent her days rummaging through piles of garbage and genuinely dreamed of a better life. One day Mouse Galina was hurrying along a narrow alley when she saw a cat on the opposite side. In such situations she usually changed her plans abruptly. And so it happened again. Galina immediately turned around but saw another cat on the other side of the street. It seemed the predators had set a trap for her. But these guys didn't know Mouse Galina well, and she knew the local streets very well. She dashed towards one of the cats, who, stunned that his prey was running straight towards him, froze in place. At the moment, Mouse Galina deftly slipped into a well-known crack in the wall. "See you later!" shouted the mouse through the crack to the cat's left on the other side. "And welcome!" she heard a satisfied voice from behind. Another cat stood right in front of her, grinning mischievously. "Where do you all come from?" sighed the mouse wearily. "It's a raid, darling." The predator licked his lips and showed his claws. But the mouse performed an incredible acrobatic move and slipped right under the cat's nose. She raced along the city streets, with cats popping out from all sides, and she barely managed to dodge them. Eventually, the cat chase drove Mouse Galina out of her native neighborhood, and she was running through completely unfamiliar waters. When she was almost surrounded, the brave little mouse darted into an unknown hole in the wall, squeezed through the narrow passage, and found herself in a very spacious and absolutely extraordinary room. Huge windows along the walls filled the room with light. Golden candelabras jutted out from the walls, and massive chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The walls and ceiling were decorated with exquisite paintings, embroideries and canvases. Mouse Galina wandered leisurely, moving from one room to another, studying decor, and didn't notice how she ended up in a spacious hall with a long red carpet that ended right at a golden throne. On the throne sat a young man wearing a crown with large diamonds. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" he asked, looking at Mouse Galina in surprise. "I just happened to wander in here. I'm a mouse from the slums," Galina replied. "And what is this place and who are you?" "That is the royal palace, and I, as you can see, am the king." The young man clicked his fingers on his crown, and it rang cheerfully. "Edward III, the Wise. I came up with the nickname myself, by the way. Cool, right?" Mouse Galina shrugged ambiguously. "But you said you're a mouse from the slums," the king remembered. "I've never heard of any slums. What is that?" "Slums are an area in the city where the poorest people live. The houses there are dilapidated, old and tiny, standing close to each other." "Wait, poor people?" Edward III scratched his head thoughtfully. "What does that mean?" "Are you really wise?" the mouse doubted. "Poor means people who have to struggle to survive every day. They don't have enough means to live. They have to work themselves to exhaustion for a pittance to feed their families." "Work? What's that?" "Sorry, I'm just a very young king and probably don't know many things." "No problem, I'll tell you everything," promised the mouse. "To work means to do some job. You see, not everyone has food on their table brought by servants in the morning. Many people need to do all sorts of hard things to get food, carrying heavy loads, cleaning stables, or serving wealthier people. Often the money for such work isn't enough for good and healthy food, and poor people have to starve." "Really?" The king was amazed. "Wow! Once I stayed too long on a hunt and missed dinner. I thought I'd go crazy with hunger." "And you say poor people often have to starve?" "Yes, and that's not the only problem. They get sick a lot and have no means to treat themselves. We rodents live close by and infect them with plague and other diseases. It's hard for them to get a good education. In winter they're cold because they can't afford warm and good quality clothes. Their feet constantly hurt because their shoes barely hold together. I can tell you a lot about poor people, but tell me, what were you taught in the palace if you don't know anything about poverty? My advisors teach me many things, but none of them ever mentioned poverty. The king shook his head. That's very strange. Maybe it's beneficial for them that you know nothing about poverty and do nothing about it. Are there many poor people in my kingdom? Mouse Galina even coughed in bewilderment. Very many, she exclaimed. Much more than rich people. But why do they stay poor and not become rich if poverty is so bad for them? Some of them, ambitious and determined, find ways to escape poverty. But for that, they have to make almost superhuman efforts, overcome thousands of difficulties and endure thousands of failures. Most poor people aren't ready for such a hard path. But most of them are good people. They don't deserve the conditions they found themselves in, and deserve better. I'd like to help these people, said the king, rising from his seat. But I don't know how. Apparently, I have no advisors who understand poverty at all. And then the king's gaze stopped on Mouse Galina. You know what? I appoint you as my new official advisor on poverty. And now you will have access to all the rooms in the palace and enjoy all the privileges that come with this title. Mouse Galina was in shock. She couldn't believe that a random crack in the wall could lead to such an unexpected turn of events. But how? A mouse as an advisor? Won't people laugh at you, king? She asked, still not believing her ears. One of the royal privileges, besides having breakfast on my table every morning, is that I can make any decisions, and I don't care what anyone thinks about it. So, will you be my royal advisor on poverty? Can you handle it? Don't worry, king, I'll handle it, said Mouse Galina. I've spent my entire life in the slums and I know what it's like to struggle for existence. You won't find a better advisor on poverty. Just, do you have many cats in the palace? And so, thanks to her incredible luck, the slum mouse became a new official advisor to King Edward III, the Wise. Together, they worked hard to defeat poverty in the kingdom. However, it turned out to be not the easiest task. But they didn't give up and continued their efforts despite everything, even despite the intrigues of some other advisors and ministers.